Okay, I'll just say a few quick words to open then, just for the benefit of anyone joining us for the first time or tuning in afterwards. I will say, in fact, if people are happy to share their screens, please do. Obviously, this is Lightning Talks, and there's some new speakers here, so it helps them to see who's out there, rather than just speaking to a bunch of black screens. But yeah, obviously, if you'd rather not, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, as I say, for the sake of anyone tuning in for the first time then, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Barry Cranford. I'm the founder of the LJC. I'm not a developer myself. I run a recruitment company called RecWorks. So our belief at RecWorks is that recruitment can be a force for good in the industry beyond just placing people jobs in the market. And that's specifically around mentoring, learning, career development, and that kind of thing. So what that means is that we only actually make money from getting people jobs, but we take a lot of that revenue and re-inject it back into initiatives like this that are ultimately going to help the industry and those people within it. And that could be on a group level, like, for example, just a presentation, or a one-to-one level. So literally just introducing mentors and mentees through the Meet and Mentor community, and really everything in between. So over time, some of the people that we help then come back and work with us, and it creates this virtuous circle. So if you are looking to hire, if anyone out there is looking to hire, or your company is, and you're happy to make an introduction, please do. And otherwise, just enjoy today. Anyway, on to today. So what we're looking to do today is part of an initiative around this aspiring speakers. So trying to encourage the next generation of conference speakers. A lot of people that are running keynotes and speaking at Java conferences around the world gave their first talk at an LJC event. And so I spoke to Emily Jiang this week, who's a Java champion. I didn't realize that she'd given her first talk at an LJC event, and that was like 10 years ago. So this is part of what we're trying to achieve here. So if anyone's interested in getting more involved in this, then talk to me. We're running these events every 2 weeks. So if you want to give a talk at the next one, then let us know. Just a quick mention as well to Steve Poole at this point. So several of the speakers today actually went to a workshop that Steve organized. So last week, Steve, a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, so massive thanks to Steve. So people that I think helped learn a lot from the workshop. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what they've got today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lakshmi then for the first talk. So just a reminder, we're going to talk. The Lightning Talks will run for between 5 and 7 minutes. Then we're going to have a few minutes between each talk for questions and just completing some feedback. I'm not going to hold up the 5 minutes and 7 minute things, because after last week I did a talk myself and it threw me completely when Chris held his 5 minute hand up. Although I'm happy to if you want me to. So Lakshmi, are you happy to go without the reminder, or would you want me to?
I think I'm happy to go without the reminder. I've kind of rehearsed, so hopefully I shouldn't overrun.
Good stuff. All right, well, I will hand over to you then. Best of luck. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay, cool. Yeah. So, hi, I'm Lakshmi. I work as a senior engineer at Tesco. So the title of my talk is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. No, Hitchhiker Guides to JWT. Basically, I would like to talk about my experience of using JWT and why we moved to JWT in our project. So first, what is JWT? So JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. So it is kind of becoming the de facto standard for two parties to communicate securely. So basically you have the server and the client, and for them to securely communicate, you use JWT. So how does JWT look? I just mentioned JSON, right? But if you see JWT, it's not JSON. It's actually JSON, but it is just that it is base64 encoded to make it a bit more compact so that you can use it for communication. And it has three parts, basically: the header, the payload, and the signature. And as you can see, the three are separated with dots. So let's dig a bit deeper into what JWT is. So to understand JWT, let's go a step back and understand session tokens. So we all are aware of session tokens, right? So basically, whenever you log into any app, it could be a grocery app in my diagram or a banking app. So you just log in once and then you can see your orders, you can search and browse, or you can book a slot. So every time, for example, if you want to check your orders, we don't ask you to log in again. Or if you want to do something on the website, we don't keep asking you to tell who you are. So how does that work? So basically it's an age-old idea of session tokens. So to give you a better example of session tokens, I've just used this analogy, which I used from Java Brains. I really like this, so I thought it would be useful for you to understand. So let's say you are a customer, you have a problem with the website. So you call up the support department, you tell them about everything about your problem. So they log everything into their system and they generate a ticket number. So this ticket number is exactly the session ID. So they basically give you a reference to this ticket number. So that the next day, for example, your ticket is not yet resolved. So you call them back. You don't want to repeat the same story again. I have this problem with your website. So what you do, you just tell them, this is my ticket number. I've already called you before. So it could be the same support rep or a different support rep. So what they do is they just look up for the ticket number and they know who you are, what is your problem. So that is exactly how session ID works. So basically when you log in or authenticate with the website creates a session token, which is usually a UUID, for example, and it maps it to the user so that every time you call with that session ID and the web app knows who you are. So that session ID is usually stored in a cookie. So let's come back to the microservices architecture again with session IDs. So usually you have your web app behind a load balancer, and there are a lot of microservices. Like you have one microservice for customer order, one for payments, and ads, products, search. So everything is a microservice, and the web app communicates with those microservices by passing the session ID. So, but the orders, for example, I want to get the orders for this customer. So you pass the session ID, but the order system still needs to know who that customer is. So again, it calls another microservice, let's say identity in this case, which has this mapping, which is like the central system for all the authentication. So the order system says, I have this session ID, but hey, identity, can you tell me who this user is? Because I want to return the orders for this user. So identity responds back with the order, with the customer ID, so that it can send the order. So basically the mapping between session ID to user ID. Same thing with payment, same thing with search. So you can imagine the number of calls which can go to identity. So what is the problem with this architecture? So no point for guessing. It's basically the single point of failure, right? So if identity system fails, then your whole website is down, because everybody is calling identity to know who the user is. And also imagine how much the identity system needs to scale based on the number of microservices you have, because the more microservices you have, the more calls to identity. So this is not an ideal architecture. And this is the kind of architecture we initially had as well. So how does JWT help to solve this problem? Let's go back to the same analogy again. So you are the customer, you have a support rep. But in this case, let's say the support rep doesn't have any phone, no, they don't have any computer, no system, nothing. Basically, they don't have any state. So you walk up to the support agent and talk to them about your problem. So support agent, being a human, understands your problem, but they don't want you to come back again every day and keep repeating the same problem again and again, because they can't mention any state, right? So what the support agent does, okay, I know all your problem, so I'll write it down in a piece of paper for you, so that next time when you come back, you can show me that piece of paper, and then I'll know who you are. So basically that is the one where you see. So the next day you come back and you show them this piece of paper. It could be the same support agent or someone else. They have seen the paper, but then they keep thinking, how will I know who created this? It could be you could have manipulated it. You could have written whatever you want, saying you'll get 3 months subscription. So I don't know what you have written in there. How will I trust you? So the other option which the support agent could do is sign. So basically when they write all the information about the ticket, they'll basically sign it, so that when you bring back to the support agent again, they know that, okay, this was signed by me or someone in my company. So this is a valid, ticket, so that I can address it. So instead of sending the reference to the ticket like we saw in the session ID, now you're sending the whole ticket itself to the customer. So the customer has the entire information related to the ticket. And on the server side, you're not maintaining any state. So that, my friends, is exactly what JWT is. So with JWT, basically authenticate once. The server sends you a JSON format session token, which is like a session token, but it has all the states so that the web app doesn't maintain any mapping. So next time when you call it, oh, the web app knows, okay, this request has everything I need, I can let you in. And it is secure because it is signed. So exactly how you sign it in the example, it is signed with a algorithm, so you know nobody can tamper it. So that is basically what JWT is. So instead of maintaining the, the reference, you actually have the value. So that is the difference between session token and JSON web token. So with JSON web tokens, you maintain the value, and with that you communicate. So hope this gave you an idea about what JSON tokens is. Like I gave you a brief idea about the format in the beginning, but it will take mainly another session to explain the format. But yeah, I just wanted to give you an idea. Thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lakshmi. That was great. Really enjoyed that. I love the hand-drawn parts of that as well. I think they really do add such a great part to it. Everyone, please feel free to pop some comments in the chat if you enjoyed that. Anything specifically? Did anyone have any questions at all for Lakshmi?
I do. Can I just ask?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Lakshmi, great talk. One question.
Thanks.
You said that the JWT has everything that the application needs to do, or these, each side needs to do. So when the user authenticates, they have an authentication, and they've got some roles that they can do, some permissions. So does it mean that the permissions of what the user is allowed to do or not to do should also be part of the JWT, or is it just, that's the identity of the user?
You could add that because you can't tamper it. So for example, you could add a role, which is usually the way where JWT is used for authorization. So you could say, for example, the role is admin, and it could be sent as part of the JWT. And because it is signed, you can't tamper it to say, for example, role was customer. You can't tamper it to change it to admin and send it back because the signature won't match. And you won't be, the server will know that, this token was tampered. So that is usually the common way of using JWT for authorization as well. And basically you can maintain the user ID as well as part of that. It also has few things called claims, where you could have the timestamp when it was created, when it will expire. But the usual suggestion is not to store, too much information, because it will get bloated, and also not very sensitive information.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. One thing I forgot to say as well, a huge reason why we do these lightning talks is to collect feedback. So if you've got any feedback that you could give, either words of encouragement or things you particularly liked about Lakshmi's talk or any of the upcoming talks, or indeed any areas of development, any constructive criticism, anything like that, then please do leave it on the form. Dom's just put a link to the form there. So yeah, that will be live, so you can fill it in now if you can, or after the event. Yeah, really useful. We tend to get about 20 pieces of feedback each time, and yeah, they're really good. So would appreciate that. So Ilan, are you you're up next? Are you ready?
Is my audio working?
Your audio is working. Are you sharing your screen?
I'm not allowed to. It says host disabled screen sharing.
Should be able to now.
Let's see. Tell me when you can see the screen.
Yeah, got that.
Okay. So then let me get going. Let's click start there. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is why developers should play chess. And then next, once we've all agreed that that's absolutely necessary, why LJC members should play chess, and they can use the chess club channel that now exists on the LJC Slack channel. So if you go to the Slack channel for the LJC, you can find chess club, join there, and you can do what you need to do. And this talk is going to explain to you why you should be doing this, and I don't know why you haven't done it already. My name is Ilan Pillemer. I'm a human being. I've been a human being for a while, and I hope to stay that way. You can find me on GitHub and LinkedIn. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about why you should play chess, and then some steps on how you can do that through the LJC and the internets. So why should developers play chess? Well, you learn mastery, you learn skill what should really stick in your mind is the way decision trees are learned. If this happens, this will happen next. And you've got to look at a number of different possibilities. And once you start learning how to do that under pressure and under time constraints, you start developing neural pathways in your brain, just like anything else, like learning to play a musical instrument or learning to walk or learning to drive a car. These things fix into your brain, and you develop the neural networks, and then you can transfer those skills to programming and more programming. So I really think it's a good idea for developers to play chess and then keep playing chess constantly in order to be better programmers. Basically, a well-known senior thought developer has said it's the same reason neural networks work. So there's a free internet chess server you can join. It's free. You can go to www.freechess.org. Once there, you click on the left, you click register, and you can fill in your various information, agree to very important things, and you will get a username and password for life. So I don't know why you haven't done that already, but once you've done it, it's for life. You get certain stats once you register, and you get a brilliant command terminal in which you can play all your chess games. In fact, you can actually play your chess game in the command terminal. And if you look at the website, it gives you some GUI options, but don't panic. This page hasn't been updated since 2013, and there are actually a number of better GUIs you can use. You can just use the terminal, but I don't know anybody that does that. An easy way to do it is to simply go to the URL on the right-hand side here. You can log in as your user, and you can play chess games against other people. You can get the app for the iPhone or the iPad that again works with the free internet chess server or other chess servers. What do I use? I use Xboard. You can simply type brew install Xboard, and you're good to go with a lot more than just this for when you want to start exploring into the greater world of thinking games. And the same reasons why developers should play chess apply to those games as well. You can see what you simply need. You simply need to type brew info Xboard or brew install Xboard, and it does all the magic for you. Then you simply need to set up a nice little alias. So when I type the word chess, it runs Xboard and it connects to the ICS host. There's also a config file for your username and password, which I have not shown on the screen. You can find games quickly. These are games that people are advertising. If you click on any one of these buttons, you will start that game. For example, the one I was hovering over was for Scarsetto at 1202 rating for a 12-minute game. Or you can challenge people directly. So once people have their usernames in the LJC and have added it to the channel, then you'll be able to play me or anybody else. And in fact, we could even form a league once we've got enough people. So quit making excuses, just do it already. My name is Ilan Pillemer. I'm a human being. You can find me on GitHub and LinkedIn, and I look forward to playing other developers chess, because as we have now established, all developers should be playing chess, and if you aren't, you should start. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ilan. I enjoyed that one. That could be my favorite of your talks so far.
Good to hear.
and we already have a channel, right, in the LJC. That's
yes,
something that I've learned about.
I've set that up already. As of yesterday.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Ilan on chess, or how to play chess, or the LJC Chess Club?
I think everyone's busy registering as we speak.
I would have thought so. I would have thought so. If possible, if people could leave some feedback, got a few minutes now. So if you, Dom's got the form on there on the chat group. So any feedback at all that you've got on either Lakshmi or Ilan, that would be fantastic. Have you been playing long then?
Well, I played when I was at high school.
Okay.
And in fact, in primary school, I got provincial colors and I toured the country. But
did you really?
I was 9 years old. So no, I was not 9 years old. What is the year before? I was 12 years old, 11 years old, somewhere there. But I wasn't that good. It's primary school. High school, but school to school and play other school teams, which was kind of fun. Then after school, I didn't play much. And recently, under lockdown, I've started playing again. And I can feel that it makes a difference to the way I think in general. It's good for the brain. And then it starts affecting, basically, you build pathways in your brain to think in more strategic ways, just naturally. So it's good for you, especially if you work in things like programming.
I watched a film at the weekend about chess, the Queen of Catway, which was a really good film about a girl that was living in the slums and became a national champion and a grandmaster at chess. So yeah, it's given me the bug. I might just join and challenge you later.
Well, there you go. And there's some fascinating variants as well. I mean, you can play a game in which you started same rules, but your board starting positions change randomly. And all sorts of weird sort of variants.
Very cool. Very cool. Right, Andy Muir, are you ready to go?
Let's turn things on and see if you can hear me and share the screen. It's a while since I've done this part on Zoom, and I don't know how it will work when I flip between applications. So cross your fingers, everybody, and rub your noses or whatever we have to do to make Skype work.
That's good. That's on.
Okay, that's a start. Probably tell me, can you see my editor? You can't. That's what I thought would happen. If I can sort that out just before I kick off, then it'll save a hiccup in the middle. Let me see what I need to do to Zoom. Bring your shared window to the front. Okay, it's back to sharing that. Sorry, folks.
That's all right. You still got 1 minute to go, so that's fine.
It's all right. I'll squeeze it into a minute. It was 5 minutes when I started, but 1 minute will be fine. Yeah.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, 1 minute before we meant to kick off.
I know
you're
that.
not down till 12:55. So all good.
I'm just looking for an easy way out. Now,
I think you can share an entire screen, not just an application or a desktop on the Mac.
Yeah.
So
I've got a few different desktops. So what I'm going to try and do, if my machine will let me when I'm on this, is drag my IntelliJ to the same place that I've got the other thing. Do shout if you can see it, or I'm going to have fun. So probably what I'll do is I'll stop sharing and then I'll start sharing again in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
I think that will work. So let me go back to the start. Right. So thanks for that. So code coverage is evil. This is probably something that most developers know already, and it's probably one reason that maybe we don't look at it very often. So code coverage, for anyone that doesn't know, is typically your production code that you've written, and we run tests, usually unit tests, and we see what lines have been covered. And that's part of the problem. Code coverage tells us that the code has been executed, but it doesn't tell us that it has been tested. And that gives us a false sense of security. Another thing is that it doesn't really tell us that the code that has been executed is actually needed for the application. And it'd be quite good if we can go around and deleting code. That's one of my favorite pastimes. So code coverage is evil. Is there something better out there? Well, yes, for the next couple of minutes, then I'll be talking about that. So I'm going to talk about mutation testing. And this is a way of effectively testing the tests that we already have. It's something that takes your production code, it takes it in memory, it changes the code in memory, and it runs your test against that code. And it expects a failure, because if we can change the production code without the tests failing, then that shows a little hole in our tests. And that's what we're going to have a quick look at. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to start sharing again, and we're going to look at the editor. Now, that looks like it there. Can you see some code? Yes. Okay, good. So diving in. So I've got my unit tests over here, a class called Turtle, no relationship or purely accidental with mutants, but there we go. So mutation testing, we're going to mutate the production code and we're going to see if the tests fail. Now, this particular one is set up to show you the difference between code coverage and the mutation testing. So I'm going to take this unit test here on the left, Turtle test. I believe you can see the code, and we can see that it's all green. All the tests are green, so that's good. And I'm going to run it with code coverage. I've changed my settings here in IntelliJ to make it a bit easier so we can see the lines that have been covered and what hasn't. This tells us that we've got 100% code coverage on that production code over here on the Turtle class. So, that might give us a false sense of security. There's obviously some inherent problems here. So what I'm going to do, I've got a framework, it's called Pit Test, or it's a mutation testing framework for Java. It's wired up, it's plugged into my IDE at the moment, and I'm going to run that with the mutation testing framework instead. It takes a bit longer, it's got an awful lot more work to do, but we're done. Now, this is going to take me to another issue because you can't see my browser. Okay, I learn things about, okay, I'm going to have to stop sharing again, and I'll take you over to my browser once I find it. Can't find the browser, that's lovely. Okay, that's a bit of a spanner in the works. Let me think then. Okay, I'll take you to somewhere else. I'm going to take you to here. Sorry, I can't show you that in the browser. But I can show you. No, I can't. It's falling apart, it seems there. Okay, stop share, share screen. We need some hold music at this point, I think. No, that should be the one. And I should be able to see the site. It's not the one. I'm not having much luck, folks. I do apologize. I can see the results quite nicely. Shame you can't. Let me work out another way of doing this. Share screen. I have my plan Bs and my plan Cs all lined up. Can you see my browser now? Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm probably just about over time, but here's a bit of feedback, and basically we can go to the same class and it can show us the lines that are not actually tested and things that are not needed. We can hover over to get a bit of an explanation. We can see things, the mutants that have either been killed or survived. We're expecting everything to be killed. Anything that survived indicates a potential problem with our tests. And we can investigate that. So it's gone in, it's changed the code in memory, it's run the test, and the tests are still green. And here's the reason why, basically. So that's what we've got there. My clock is telling me that I'm already over time, Barry. So I'll probably stop here and take any questions.
Great, thanks, Andy. Anyone got any questions for Andy at this point then?
Yeah, so Andy, Steve Paul here, that was cool. How do I put this? So what other tools do you know of that do these sorts of things?
On the JVM, it's the only one that I've come across. I don't know. I honestly don't know in languages outside of the JVM. Apparently, there was one that was created a long time ago, and I don't believe it's maintained, called Jester. But Pit is certainly the one to go and look at, I would say.
Cool. I would really suggest that if you're interested, that you talk to Barry about maybe doing a longer talk through this, because I think it's always very interesting to people to see.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Steve. As before, if you're happy to leave some feedback for Andy, that would be phenomenal. Don't worry about the Zoom issues, the connection issues. We've had about 65 events now. Pretty much everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So yeah, no, it's fine. It's all part of this. These sessions are to kind of iron out all these things, to find these things. But yeah, I think that'd be great. Would be good to book you in for a long talk, Andy, if you're happy to.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Nice. Okay, I believe Katie's up next, isn't she? Yes, Katie Sanderson.
Yes.
Are you there? There you are. Yeah. Okay. You've got screen sharing? Yeah. Perfect. All working. Okay. Well, ready to go when you are then.
All right, everyone can see my screen, I take it? All right, fantastic. Well, I'm Katie Sanderson. I'm a software engineer at Goldman Sachs, but today I'm here to talk to you about methods for effective mentoring. And quick show of hands, those of you that are videoing, how comfortable are you with mentoring? Like here, you haven't mentored yet, and here you're an active mentor, and you frequently mentor, I guess. Awesome. Well, it's good to see the variety, and regardless of whether you're an experienced mentor or whether you're just getting into it, I hope that I can give you a few methods for improving your mentoring that you can put into practical use. So, quick background on why I think mentoring, and especially effective mentoring, is important is because 2 years ago, I was a complete newcomer to the tech industry. I switched careers from chemical engineering, and in doing so, I didn't have the university background that several CS degrees might have, and there was a lot for me to learn. And so I really relied on mentors to, of course, not only learn, maybe resources to use, but things that I could expand into that I wasn't aware of, like even testing. Of course, it seems like an obvious concept and something critical to have, but it wasn't something on my mind. So mentoring is fun, but more effective mentoring is even more fun, in my opinion, because it's beneficial to both the mentor and the mentee. So a few ways that I think you can improve your mentoring is being accessible, being a leader, and being prepared. So what does it mean to be accessible as a mentor? Well, of course, it means, joining communities, especially ones that foster mentoring relationships and, welcome newcomers into their communities. And there are many of these communities, especially in tech, but a few examples: LJC, Meet a Mentor, Free Code Camp, and ones that target, underrepresented groups such as women and people of color. And of course, it's not enough to, just be in these groups. It's also important to be quite active. And I have a few ways to be active, on my slide, but I think one that's commonly overlooked is celebrating wins. And, it's a great way to easily motivate people and demonstrate that their achievements, are amazing, and even if they're a small achievement, which is why I think it's important for you as a mentor to celebrate your achievements as well, to help, push people into achieving, what their goals are, and broadcasting those, because that motivates people, and celebrating the small wins is a great way to kind of, target that imposter syndrome that's just so prevalent in our industry, because some people only post their huge achievements, and I really think that even the small achievements are definitely worth that same recognition. The next thing I would say is be a leader. So one way to do this is organizing and leading events, and you can check with your groups. When I first joined the tech industry, I was active with some groups, but I didn't think that they would have the capacity and the bandwidth to help, to allow me to organize and lead these events. And I want you to know that several of your communities that I'm sure you're already part of probably do want this help, and they are very keen to have more people active with this leadership. So this can be anything from introduction events into just what is tech, and it could be specific technology, even social events. With the recent corona crisis, we've all had to adjust to a more virtual environment, and one way that I found quite effective is, of course, LJC has been great about the virtual meetups, but one thing that I led in one of my groups is virtual interviewing. So what we did was quite interesting. We had an interviewer and an interviewee, and we had people just on the call that might think about how would they have answered that question. And it was beneficial not only for the interviewer or the interviewee, but also the people that were peripheral to the call. Now, if you're not able to organize and lead events, there are still great ways to be a leader within your community. And I'd say one of the easiest ways to be a better mentor is encouraging participation within your groups, even for events that are outside your group. And the great thing about this is that if you encourage, cross participation within the various groups, I've seen it lead to, co-sponsored events. I've had events with I'm a leader. I'm on the leadership team for Free Code Camp, and we've been able to do several events with other communities just because we end up cross-posting our events between the different channels. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with, although please don't let this hold you back to actually, taking your first steps as a mentor, is be prepared. One thing that I found very useful and I think helps out my mentees that I've worked with is compiling the resources that I've found useful over my journey in tech, such as, the fundamentals, interviewing, and you can see the other topics on my slide, but just being able to quickly broadcast these resources, I think is a large help. When I started in tech, I wasn't aware really of what an interview looked like in the tech industry, and I was certainly still looking for resources to learn, and I feel like every day I'm still looking for resources to learn. And so being able to share these, I don't know if you can see the banner at the top. But anyways, being able to share these resources effectively is a large help in making your mentoring effective. And of course, it's important to listen to your mentee and, ask appropriate questions that will help them, understand where do they need to go and how can they get better. And these can be, what areas do they need to improve on? And even, like was done with me, helping them identify areas that they might not be aware of, like contributing to open source or even things like automated testing. And of course, with any level of experience, whether you're completely new in the industry or whether you've got 5 years experience, is knowing, what are your specific actionable goals so that you can, measure yourself on your way there and, be proud of your achievements. So there are many ways to be an effective mentor and be a great ambassador for our industry. But I think, you know, being accessible, being a leader, and being prepared are three great, easily implemented ways to do exactly that. And this will definitely help you, I think, have fun in your mentoring journey, and certainly help your mentees have fun. So I'm Katie Sanderson, and thank you.
Thank you, Katie. That was awesome. Yeah, I can really totally feel where you're coming from there as well, with the with the idea of groups needing help and needing constant support from people on the inside. We've seen it time and time again, how groups can go dry and then can just get so strong from having people internally get involved. So yeah, no, really good. Some great tips there. Any questions out there at all for Katie? Oh, if not, I think we're all good then, and we're all good for the final one with Riyanat. We'll give it just a few minutes there. If anybody can add some feedback down, or any encouragement, anything at all for Katie, that was yeah, that's great. Just give it a few minutes then, Riyanat, and then yeah, we can kick off.
Yeah, awesome. Hi everyone. So I don't have slides today, so you're just gonna have to look at me for like the next 5 minutes, which I promise you will hopefully be good. So I'm just going to start. I'm Riyanat. I'm a senior Java developer, and I work for UX Net-a-Porter. Today, I'm going to be sharing two really interesting observations that I made while learning two different types of languages. So the first one is a programming language, and it's Python. And the second language is a human language, and it's Mandarin, also known as Simplified Chinese. And the reason why I want to share this is because I had two complete different learning experiences. So on one hand, with Python, it's been an interesting and challenging journey. And on the other hand, with Mandarin, it has been so much more progressive and positive, even though I am still a beginner. It's also interesting because I started learning these both roughly around the same time. And I had some time to just sit down and reflect, to think about why one learning experience was so much more positive than the other one, especially because, in my personal opinion, Mandarin is just so much more complicated and harder to learn. At least that's what I think. And I came up with these two interesting observations that I said earlier on at the beginning that I'd like to share. So I'd just like to jump straight into them. The first one, as simple as it sounds, is to just fully embrace what you're learning. And I'll give some examples. So Mandarin versus English, so many differences. But one of the very first ones that I learned was just how you structure a sentence. So in English, you would say something like, I drink tea in the morning. So I is the subject in the sentence, drink tea is the action, and in the morning is the time. But in Mandarin, you would say it differently. You would move the time component to the second part. So you would say, I, in the morning, drink tea or drink coffee. And it's so interesting because it's very different. But my attitude towards this was to fully embrace it. And I was just so fascinated by all these differences. In fact, the more differences, the better. So that's Mandarin on one hand, the programming language. Let's switch over to my attitude towards the differences I noticed in Python. So again, maybe it's my Java experience and me being a biased Java developer, but I found that I was questioning a lot of those differences just so much. So I would be like, why is the structure so different? Why have I got to deal with all this indentation and manipulate data structures differently? I wasn't very fully embracing of Python and the simplicity of the language. So I really didn't fully embrace it, which when learning is quite hindering. So that's the first point, simple as it is. It's just to fully embrace what you're trying to learn. The second point that I'd like to share is adding variety. Adding variety to what you're learning is so important. And what I mean is, like in the case of Mandarin, when I look at my Mandarin learning, and I'm still learning Mandarin, I signed up to an online course, used multiple apps, joined a reading book club. Before the whole lockdown, I was attending social meetups, and I watch a fair amount of Mandarin TV drama. And the nice thing about this is that sometimes when I am confronting a very difficult chapter in my learnings, I can easily just passively switch and just continuously watch Mandarin TV. And I'm slowly, I'm still learning passively, even though that it doesn't involve my regular course. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing in Mandarin, right? Switch over to Python. What was my approach of learning Python? Honestly, my goal was to do some work projects and to simply learn Python by doing my work projects. The disadvantage and the struggle with this is, first, I'm limited by time, delivery, the pressure of quality, having to show this one to someone else. And then slowly I observed that I was stripping out the elements of fun and the willingness to just make mistakes when learning, and by tying it into a work project that is basically going to be a deliverable at the end of the day. What I could have done, however, is a personal project, watched loads of talks from a Python conference such as PyCon, read a book on Python. I quite like reading, and that's definitely the kind of way that I like to learn, and just attended meetups and doing the fun things and enjoyable things that are part of a whole learning experience. So those are real, like, two observations that I made while learning. If I had to summarize them into one, I would call it immersion. Now, normally when people hear about immersion, or you say immersing yourself into a learning experience, people think, oh, it just means I have to focus on this thing 100%. Or in the case of like a language, it means, oh, I need to pack my bags and just move to where this language is spoken remotely. But honestly, in my case, I would say that I managed to immerse myself in my Mandarin learning experience without having to do that, without having to move thousands of miles away from my home. So I hope that these 2 points, that you've at least found them interesting, maybe find them useful in future when learning, to fully embrace yourself in what you're learning and to add lots of variety when you're learning. And thank you for listening.
Great, thanks, Riyanat. That was brilliant. Really appreciate that. So how would you recommend immersing yourself in language again? Go over that one more time. If somebody's learning a new technology, how would you recommend going about that?
So I would say, first of all, fully embrace. Don't go with, from me, and again, maybe it's the fact that I've been doing Java for a while, I think I brought a lot of my biases, like Java way is the right way. And so therefore seeing the differences in Python, I didn't fully embrace them. It was like very questioning. It's so different, but not in a positive way, if that makes sense. So it's almost forget what you know and be very open with this new thing that you're trying to learn, which is what I did with Mandarin. I didn't go, English language is the right way. It's like, I just want to learn this new language, end of, and just fully embrace it. So embrace and be open-minded. That's point one. And then the second one is just having so much variety when you're learning, and not just one thing. So don't just have one course, because when you get stuck in that course, it's the only thing you have. And if you just have the one project, when you get stuck with that one project, it's all you have. And find multiple different outlets and different ways of learning. So in the case of Mandarin, I had the online course. I had multiple apps, joined the online reading book club, which I do on Saturday mornings from 9:30 till 10:30. And it's quite nice because we go through a whole chapter and just read an interesting story. So just having those little different learning things, it's quite immersive, because you don't get exhausted. It's not like you've got the one project that you're working on from Monday to Friday. In different ways, I'm learning Mandarin, but throughout the week. So yeah, variety and being open-minded.
Interesting, very interesting. Did anyone have any questions for Riyanat?
Yeah, I have a question. Oh, my video's gone. Keep turning it off. So how's your Python skills now? Have you taken on your own teachings?
I haven't gone back to learning Python, but the thought of it on its own, just adding flavor to my learning, I'm excited by it. And so when I think of, I could just get a book on Python, or just watch some conference talks from PyCon, that I find exciting, and I'm more willing to go and pick it up. Whereas before I was like, this is a defeated project. I think I'm just going to go learn something else like Golang or whatever. And I could do the same thing and just, well, it's not similar to Java. And then, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Bro. Well, thanks, guys. That brings us to the end of the Lightning Talks. I hope you've all enjoyed it.